Welcome. Today I have an interview with Meg Konovska, a Bulgarian artist and writer from London, and we talk about lots of topics relative for creatives. For example, how to stay creative and how to build a lifestyle around your professional creativity, how to write short stories and what's the most important ingredient for short storytelling, and also why is it important to connect to creatives in your own field, but also to get a glimpse into the other fields of art. And Meg shares lots of great techniques and tips. One of them, the 33 dot illustration, which I'd like to try out at some point myself. And she's really passionate about creativity, about creatives, about helping them. And this is a passion we both share. And so we have a great chat. Have fun. Okay, hi. So today we have the amazing Meg Konovska with us. Did I say it right, Konovska?
No, it's Konovska.
Konovska, okay, sorry about that. Meg Konovska with us, and she's an artist and designer who wants to help professional creatives stay excited and inspired, achieve better results, and live a fulfilled life. And she's also the creator of the blog and website Just How Cool Is That? And this is what she normally says when she learns something exciting and wants to pass it on, the excitement and the enthusiasm, right? And today we will talk about her illustrated storybook, 33, A Catalogue of Imagination, how to stay creative, and what to include into your daily routine. Yeah, so it's great to have you with me here, Meg. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's amazing to be your guest. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. And an illustrated storybook, what is it exactly, and who is it for? How can we imagine that?
If I have to be honest, I decided to put the title Illustrated Storybook because it had to be something. So it was what was closest to what it actually is. If I have to be honest, it became a side effect from my uh, personal show, and it's an exhibition, so that's why it had the title Catalog. Originally, these were the explanations that accompanied my pieces, the ones that serve now as illustrations. I would suggest that it's the best for the young at heart. Children greatly attracted to the illustrations. However, the stories themselves, although they're nice and humorous, they do feature some adult content, like in terms of uh, mm, questionable and provocative stories like racism, personal and mental disorders, and health disorders, also fashion, um, and such difficult questions that are not exactly for children. But anyways,
Mm.
one who does have a young spirit would appreciate that.
Okay, so does it mean like you have an illustration and then you have a story for the illustration? Is this how it
Yes,
works?
exactly. That was the case. Even though originally, when you normally you design a illustrated storybook, that would be story first, illustration second. But this time it was reverse engineered because I had this challenge of 33 paintings within just a couple of months. That's less than 60 days because I had to go uh, through cutting the paper, uh, doing the sketches, then painting all of them, all 33, then framing. During that time, I hadn't provided the gallery, so I had to go through negotiations and to curating and logistics and all that jazz. It was just insane. And luckily, I did have my supportive network that did help me quite a lot. But anyways, this was the reason because I didn't have quite the time to design the really amazing artwork I initially intended to. And I figured out it would be a bit under delivering if I did just with the illustrations, I said to myself, okay, well, people would go around and they would say, oh yeah, that's cool, and they will just pass on because that's how the brain works. That's
Mm.
default mode, the least resistance, and that's totally normal. And I think so what would happen? They would see this painting, and it's like really not that great in terms of painting. So how can I improve that? So furthermore, I didn't have the financial assets and the time assets to design and print a real catalog. So I decided to go with the PDF version, what later ended in the now catalog. And I just wanted to help the observers immerse in a greater experience instead of just looking through another not that great exhibition. So that's how it all went.
Okay, and there's a certain method that those paintings, those illustrations were created with. What is this method, and why is it so special?
Um, that was a game that my dad taught me when I was about 11 years old or in the fifth grade. And it was a method of connecting the dots. My dad knew that I was a huge fan of connecting the dots. These childish games where you have a picture to, which is in advance, something designed for the little kid to connect and then have the outcome just fixed. But my dad had invented this game by himself when he was a kid and when he was wondering what to do. So this is blindfolded or with eyes closed. You make 33 dots on the blank sheet of paper. Well, this was not the 33. I later added that because I was 33 at the
Mm.
time. Yeah. So you just randomly put some dots. Then you open your eyes. You connect the dots, and you get the silhouette. You try your best not to intersect lines because you'll get a different shape, but that's still fine. But that was one of the rules. You had to get the silhouette. And then within that silhouette, you get the challenge to look for meaningful shapes and then complete that. It's quite similar to cloud gazing when you just lay on the grass and look at the clouds and you see, oh, there's a crocodile over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
This is how it works, actually.
Cool. And why did you choose that method? So what's so special about this for you personally?
Oh, well, during that time, I was really very um, inspired by the psychoanalysis because I'm into personal development and subconscious influences that we all have. And what's that subconscious without Carl Jung? So he has that quote. I'm not sure how it is in German, but it translates something like learn what your subconscious says because otherwise it will rule your life, and this is what you will call destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that really very intriguing, and I decided to go with that sort of art therapy way, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew from before that during such an experience you will get some archetypes appear from your sheet of paper, but then I was intrigued to see what happens because I hadn't practiced that sort of game since my childhood when my dad taught me actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I did remember I had some really great pieces, but I thought what it would be if I decided to make like a more serious show and provoke the perceptions of people what art is supposed to look like, and why should we discard these methods that are found in the childhood. And then we had Picasso who said at 12 years of age, I already knew how to paint like Raphael, and then during my whole life, I tried to learn how to paint as a child. So that's another one, unlearning method, so to speak, and just allowing yourself to have fun and to immerse within the process. And then going back to the question of destiny, I decided to somewhat imitate that process, like we have something predetermined in advance. So this is what I did by closing my eyes and putting blindly the 33 dots, right? That's our pre-given situation. And then I had that dots and I started connecting them. And then you have Steve Jobs, and you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So I started connecting the dots, but then with each dot, I had the dilemma: which way should I go from here? So this is the question of which path we decide to take afterwards. Yeah. Once we have connected the full silhouette, I had several options to choose from, depending on which angle I had looked at the picture. So this is the question of what point of view should we choose to look at our life, and eventually what a painting would our life become. So the full story, the concept that I included within the process. So although on the outside it looks very fun and very flirty and light-mooded, it's a quite deeper story.
Great. And then you wrote your stories around those pictures, right? So normally you do it vice versa. You write a story and then you maybe illustrate the story with the pictures. You did it the other way around. How was this process different from writing a story from scratch?
Above all, I already had a picture, and I, just like any other person, would think in the way of least resistance. Like I had a look at this picture and I say, okay, that's a hummingbird. What's the matter with a hummingbird? They're just a stupid hummingbird. What the hell should I do here? And then I remembered those paintings in the huge world museums where you have a whole story describing that. And luckily I also had a music background while painting the picture. So with the hummingbird, it was the soundtrack from the movie Avatar. So I said, okay, that would be a gigantic mutated hummingbird that's on Pandora, because look at the hummingbird, it's taking the whole sheet of paper that's like 30 by 30. Normally hummingbirds are just that tiny, so that would be a gigantic hummingbird. Oh, look at that, I haven't put legs. Okay, that would be a part of the evolution of the hummingbird. So this is how it developed. And look at that beak. It does look. I would put that in the further stages of the evolution, that becomes a non-teeter trunk.
Okay, so you basically went with the flow. What came to mind, and you just went with it. Like, it reminds me of like a little child, just take what's there and play with it. Is it right?
It was exactly that method, and as a matter of fact, within the 11 days of the exhibition, I also had a workshop for the little kids that went to arts lessons at the very same gallery. So it was a huge success with them. They were so inspired, and they created amazing pieces, especially for their age, and they came up with some really cool stories. Like, for example, there was that pair of jeans that climbed the tree to save the little kitten that was stuck, and so they had a painting of the pair of jeans.
Oh, great. So, you're an artist. You're quite visual, but also you're a writer. So you have a blog, you have this page, and how important do you think is visual inspiration for a writer, for a story, for storytelling, or how do you use visual inspiration for your stories?
Well, I personally believe that stories are everywhere, and it doesn't matter which way they are created, whether it would be visual, whether it would be a movie, whether it would be a theater, whether it would be a book, or whatever. They just go from one another, and one form does inspire the other. There are numerous cases when you will have a novel as a main outline for a movie that
Yeah.
becomes a blockbuster, or look at the masterpieces that the galleries that I already mentioned, that they are quite often inspired by Greek mythology. So that's just a narrative that's been ongoing for ages, and um, it's just a different way, a different medium of telling a story.
Mm.
Uh, that's quite important, not only for me but for general storytelling. That interdisciplinary approach, and
Mm.
that the greatest age within the art history, like the Medici era in the Italian Renaissance, when you had all those different artists and professionals gathered under one roof, and they all interacted together, architects and sculptors and painters. It was all one huge mixture of creativity. So that's not surprising. You all got these amazing results that were just remarkable for the entire history of art.
Mm. Yeah, so so you say basically it's good when you're, for example, an artist, a writer, to look at the other art forms as well, right? So look at
Yeah,
music, look at art.
and
Yeah.
not only other forms of art, but other creatives in your field. Like
Mm.
if I say, okay, I want to develop my artistic skills, like my painting skills, in a to a greater extent, and I would do that in the watercolor field, then I would consider looking at other watercolorists. And if I wanted to write a fictional book, I would have a look at other artists that I admire, and I would say, oh, I would really love to do this and that, and so I would take it from there.
Mm.
Like it's inevitable to have influences, but as it is quite often the case, real artists still.
Yeah, it's true. That's a great one. Yeah, yeah, it's true. But it's I wouldn't say call it stealing. It's maybe like an inspiration from where you take it and make something else out of it, right? But
Exactly. I mean, stealing is not, it's just a rude word to make it more obvious. I do not mean by in any way that ruthless stealing, that's plagiarism, just taking something from that's completely developed from another
yeah,
artist, say this is mine.
yeah,
No.
yeah, sure.
Uh, oh, let me tell you something. Oh, that is this connection. Like, I believe it's a great honor for the artist who has stolen or who has influences from different artists and different pieces and different cultures, to say after completing his piece, see guys, I have used this and that inspiration, I have made this and that interpretation, and this is my final piece that's based on this story, and this is why you have in the movies, this is based on, let's say, Hans Christian's artisan's Snow Queen, that's me
Mm.
quoting Frozen. Yeah. And everyone would say, oh, it has very little to do with the Snow Queen. Yes, but it was the inspiration. So Disney, they mentioned their sources, they mentioned their inspiration.
Mm.
So that's part of the reason why they they are so great. While meanwhile, I have that lovely soundtrack from the movie 300, and at the end of the movie, you have that amazing melody going through the background. In fact, that's Bulgarian folk song. And
Ah.
Taliban, the composer, did not even mention that.
Mm.
Like he took all credit. And I said, wow, that's just so rude. Like
Mm.
if he did mention that this melody was taken from this and that region, and it was this and that melody, and people would think, wow, he did his research. He actually went to that geographical area, and he took the melodies that are so typical for that place. So
Mm.
he did put in the spirit of that
Yeah, yeah.
that place into the movie, but he did not that.
Mm.
He did not do that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just credit. Yeah,
It's a great point actually to reference your inspiration, to reference other artists in your work, and not to be afraid, because I think maybe sometimes artists think, oh, if I reference that, everybody will think I have stolen, or you don't know. But I think it's great if you reference, because you, like you said, it shows that you did your research basically. Yeah, so
exactly.
it's great.
And
Uh,
I don't know if you have read Napoleon Hill. He refers to that as what was that? One was creative imagination, and the second term was compound imagination.
mm,
I
mm.
believe
Okay, okay, it's
that
great.
to actually take all the references and you put them together.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
was it compound? But
Well,
anyway, it's
yeah,
something
we'll
like
see.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna research on that.
Yeah.
One last thing on storytelling, because our time is running out already. So many great things. So you wrote actually very short stories, right? What do you think are the most important aspects you have to put of storytelling? You have to put into such a compressed form of storytelling. How did you choose which things to put in and which things to leave out, or didn't you have any problems with that?
Well, the point is that I had so very little time that I had to stick to the point. Not all of them are stories in the true sense of that.
Mm,
Most of them are just depicting the picture in the present moment, and they're in that sense they're a little piece of mindfulness put to paper. But uh, the ones that do have storytelling composition, they do have conflict, they have surprise, they have characters, and I have aimed for all of them to have humor.
mm.
Because they need to stand out with something. They need to catch attention with something. When you have so very little time, so very little place, you just have to make a point. And if it were a longer form, then you would develop a more complex conflict.
Okay, yeah, great, great. I think it's a good one to say that humor is very essential for everything. It's really good. So let's switch to another topic, the creative living, because you're very passionate about that. Yeah, I can see that. With your blog, you try to help creatives and artists. What would your personal tips be to stay creative?
Well, to stay creative, there are a number of components, but I would put first, ironically, do not be afraid to unplug and actually go off work, because it is under completely different circumstances that your greatest idea pop up. It would be under the shower when you get your greatest idea, or when you're having a walk. That's just because you make it task for your subconscious to work on, and even though you unplug, so to speak, your subconscious continues working on your problem. But when you're too much stressed, then you have your Frankenstein part of your brain just keep you stuck and not able to see the solution to your problem or dilemma. And then another one is you need to work with other creatives, with other people to get your creative juices flow. And as we previously spoke to, better look at other sources of inspiration apart from your particular field. And then it's also super important to keep your body in shape, because even though it might look illogical from the outside, and more often than not you would imagine a creative someone with a really bad figure, not taking care of their health, which might be the case with some people, but it's not a good idea, because it's much better when you keep healthy, when you sleep 8 hours per night, when you go to bed before midnight. Like it's not always possible. I'm not saying it's always possible, but it's better to maintain this course of a healthy lifestyle, of frequent exercise, staying hydrated. It all helps your the chemicals in your brain to work properly and to unleash the potential that you have within you.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm also a big advocate for staying healthy and working out, because I will always think when you're sick, you cannot be creative. So it's very important to have your body in shape and be in good health. Then you can be
When
free.
when you suffer a tremendous headache, it's hard to think of anything but
Yeah.
that. And unfortunately, too often do we value our health only after we lose it. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah. It's
yeah,
a great point. You said it, all in all, that it's a lifestyle basically. It's not just sitting down and painting or writing. It's everything around it as well. No, so it's really good. What are your particular things that you include into your creative routine?
so every morning I aim to have half an hour or so of meditation, half an hour or so of workout in the morning. And then, if I have time after in the afternoon, I would have a second and more serious workout. But that's just in case that I don't stay with no exercise for the day. It might be any form. It would be. It's may be dancing. It may be walking. It may be hula hooping. It may be yoga. Just any form to get my body moving. Then I would stay hydrated during the whole day. I drink a lot of green or herbal tea, no black tea, no coffee. Unlike unlike many other creatives who are
Mm.
addicted to coffee, like the um, what was that word? One of the stereotypes of writer is with a huge pot of coffee
Yeah.
in front of
True,
them.
it's true. Yeah, yeah.
And then I would aim to connect with other writers, creatives, and so on, so that I can stay in touch with what's current and what's up to date. Then I aim to network with them and do my marketing on social media, because it's very important to do that on a daily basis, bit by bit. It doesn't cost you quite a lot, but it accumulates. And sometimes it's one of the traps of the Ten Commandments of the couch potato lord, that you stick in social media all the time, and you actually forget working on what you should be working actually. But
Mm.
that's one of the things that has a double side effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then uh, so very important to get quality time with my family. Uh, that's in the evening when I get unplugged actually.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's all everything's so great. And you work a lot with creatives of all kinds because of your blog, because of your work. And what do you find are the things creatives struggle most with?
Well, there are a number of things, but if I have to define one aspect, that would be fear. Because from fear, there goes all other procrastination, self-doubt, um, then work overload because you fear you're not enough. Um, and these are many of these are subconscious limiting beliefs. Um, then you have that society norms that impose on us and nourish the starving artist myth. And you need to battle with that as well, because at one point you have what society tells you, and on the other point you say you have no, that doesn't need to be that way, because many times we hear, oh come on, get a normal job. Like for example, when my boyfriend, who's a script writer, and that's a very serious profession, and when I told my family about that, one of my relatives, she said, um, "Oh, so isn't he thinking of getting a more serious job?"
Yeah. I know that one, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So that's the case. Like there are many aspects
Mm,
of that, both internal for the artist and both external from the
mm,
outside. Sounds of value in your work, because obviously creatives, we do what we love, which is great. And since we were kids, we were told that, oh, you should work hard, seriously, you shouldn't be just doing things for pleasure. And everyone who has approached a creative business or a craft of any sort knows that it's not easy. Like
mm.
it's not the same sort of like digging charcoal would be, let's say,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
but
It's
it's
still
the
hard
same
work,
sort.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is hard work. And seriously, I haven't heard anyone talking of soft work. How
Mm.
would that look like, soft
Yeah,
work?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, our time is running out, but I just want to have this one last question. You have these, as a creative, you have this inner struggle, you have fears, and you have maybe from outside pressure. How do you have any techniques how we can overcome this? How we can battle this in everyday life?
Any techniques? Well,
Or how do you do it
yes.
personally? How do you cope
Uh,
with that?
yeah. I got you meaning. Well, one of the greatest ways to do that is get yourself a support system, having a community of like-minded people, like surrounding yourself with fellows from either the same or a similar field, because we do understand each other. And even if you cannot find ones in your town, then there's luckily internet, and you can do that online. Then if you limit how much information you tell other people and what sort of information you tell other people, the ones that you already know that are not hugely supportive of your creative endeavors, and then you would limit the amount of information you give to them, and thus you would hopefully have less pressure from them and less sarcastic remarks, which are anything but pleasant. And then it's recommended to put your work out there, because unless you get some sort of validation uh, for that, you would be just working for yourself, which is still fine. But this is not professional creative work. It's just in terms of hobbies, which is still fine. But we are talking about professional
Mm.
creatives.
Yeah, yeah, I love your last point, putting your work out there and not being afraid of critique, because you can have both. If you have critique, you take it in and you see how what can I do better. But you can have also people who say, "Wow, this is amazing, this is great, this helped me a lot," and this gives you the inspiration, the motivation to push on, right? Yeah, it's so great. So it was such an amazing interview, so much input. Meg, where can people
Yeah.
find you and your amazing work?
Well, you can find me online. I hang around Facebook in the Tribe Builders Network. I'm quite active there. And it's a great supportive community of creatives. And the basic aim of this community is to help other creatives, and they help you. So we lift each other's by lifting each other.
It's
And,
great. But and you also have your blog, right? The
yes, my
the
my personal website. That's just how cool is that? And
I love that name.
.com. In fact, it was supposed to be how cool is that, but that was taken. So it
Oh.
became just how cool is that?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'll obviously link to this in the show notes so that people can find you online. And yeah, it was great. Thanks a lot for your time. It was phenomenal.
Thank you so much as well. And for anyone who would like to contribute to the just how cool is that website, I would gladly put your story in there, have a guest post from you, just like the 10 Commandments of the Couch Potato Lord. I totally recommend you read this. And uh, also, I would include backlinks to your website, or I can interview you, whatever. Just reach out to me if you're a professional creative, and I will see you on the other side.
Okay, thank you so much. So, thank you guys for sticking around for so long. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyed it and found some tips you can implement into your own practical creative life. And if you liked it, please be sure to subscribe in YouTube, iTunes, my blog, whatever you are watching, listening, reading it on. And also like it, share it with other creatives so they can start the adventure of their lifetime and we can create a vibrant community helping each other, encouraging each other. And thank you so much for that. Till the next time, I love you guys. Bye bye.